Hey, moneymakers, welcome to another episode of Taking Stock Live. I'm your host, Kalila Reynolds, and we're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. Now, we missed you last week. I sure did. I hope you missed me as well, but I also hope that you had a wonderful and restful or joyful Easter weekend and, the entire week you got to spend with family, with friends, doing stuff that you enjoy. And we're back again this week because it's all about the money, but we do understand that all work and no play makes Jack and Kalila a dull person. So Stephen Murad has been the CEO of Digicel for about 2 years now, but we have never interviewed him on this program. And there's a lot that we want to know. We want to get to know Digicel's new-ish CEO, what their plans are and what they are looking to do to expand the telecoms network and bring us better quality service, especially in the face of possibly more competition coming to Jamaica. And later on in the Analysts, we're also going to be looking at One-on-One's results as well as Knutsford Express's results. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. But first, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share with a friend. Also subscribe to our newsletter at getmoneynews.com. That's getmoneynews.com. Stay tuned. I have an announcement coming later in the show as well, and an exclusive invitation for you, our Taking Stock viewers. But until then, let's get this money. On this episode of Taking Stock, meet Digicel CEO Stephen Murad. Who is he and what plans does he have for one of the island's largest telecom providers? Ask him anything. Stephen Murad joins us live. And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. Knutsford Express and One-on-One's results are out. How did they perform? We'll discuss.
But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Jamaica's government says Carnival 2025 outperformed last year's record-breaking staging. Culture Minister Olivia Grange said the economic impact is at least 10% higher than 2024. According to the Tourism Ministry, last year's staging of Carnival generated roughly 95 billion Jamaican dollars in total economic impact. 4.5 billion of that was direct economic impact. Minister Grange said Carnival 2025 generated income for multiple businesses across several sectors, especially hotels and short-term rentals. Proven Properties and Sage Logistics have teamed up for their latest commercial development. The companies are investing some $13 million to build out the Gateway Logistics Hub to elevate Jamaica's standing as a regional logistics powerhouse. The development will transform roughly 4 acres on Marcus Garvey Drive into a state-of-the-art complex to meet global warehousing standards. According to the company, the hub will feature 21 warehouse units with a combined 112,000 square feet of rentable space. The design includes dedicated loading docks, storage closets, and standby generators. The complex will also include a 20,000-gallon firewater storage tank, garbage collection facilities, and parking. Jamaica's first casino hotel is set to open in Hanover later this year. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett said Princess Grand Jamaica is expected to open in November. The hotel will be the island's first casino hotel and is one of 3 potentially planned for the country, according to Bartlett. The resort will include over 500 ocean view suites, 3 pools, 8 bars, and 9 restaurants. It's the first Jamaican property for the Spain-based Princess Hotels and Resorts Company. Gold prices surged to a record high last week. Gold is considered a safer investment amid economic uncertainty. It rose to a new record of $3,500 per ounce. The surge followed concerns that U.S. President Donald Trump would fire Chair of the Federal Reserve Jerome Powell. Gold prices have risen over 30% this year. It's been one of the biggest winners as Trump advances his global tariff agenda and confidence in the U.S. dollar declines. The German government says its economy is expected to have zero growth in 2025 and is pointing the finger at U.S. President Donald Trump's trade policy. According to German officials, the U.S.'s trade policy and tariffs directly impact the country's export-oriented economy. The U.S. is Germany's largest trading partner, accounting for roughly 10% of its exports in 2024. The U.S. has imposed a 10% tax on European Union exports into the country after previously announcing and pausing a 20% rate. Germany also cut its growth forecast for 2026 to 1% from 1.1%. Will 2025 be the return of Jamaican stocks? It's been a rough couple of years, but like I've been saying, the time to start is when the market is low. Your objective as an investor, like any other type of trade, is to buy low and sell high. So now that stock prices are low, this is the perfect time to jump in. We already have several IPOs planned for 2025, so don't get left behind. Start your investment journey today by taking Investing for Beginners. Go to investingforbeginnersja.com. Let's get this money. Welcome back. Let me see who we have joining us online. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. That's why there's so few comments in the chat. Let me know in the chat what part of Jamaica and what part of the world you are joining from. We know Taking Stock is global, and I want to see those names and those locations, starting with We're Connected, joining live from Sheffield in Negril. I'll be your ends Thursday, heading to Westmoreland. Whitehorse is Westmoreland on Thursday. Garfield says, good night. Spanish Town is watching. David is in St. James watching. We got Dwight here as usual. Kish joining from London. Chris Hill from Panama City. Dean wanted to know which good news I have for you. Soon tell you, Dean. Don't worry. Soon tell you. 1 Coco says, still picking the cocoa. Adding up one by one. It all adds up. Francis Harding is in Miramar, Florida. Humble Boss is checking in from Negril. We got, who else? Dalton in Cayman Islands. Richard Bell saying good night to the moneymakers. Andre is in Florida. Ingrid is in Bull Bay, St. Andrew. Omar is in Jacaranda Home, Spanish Town. We got Shanique joining us from Canada. Roswell in Unity Hall. Mikhail in St. James. Earl is in Helsha. Oren is in Ocho Rios. And he wants to know if I've seen the blueprint for the new Emerald Roaring River in Miami Bay. No, I haven't. Have you? Send it to me now. I want to see what is going on. All these developments, all this progress. Let me tell you, I was in St. Anne in Richmond last week, not Easter weekend. I don't want to imagine what Easter weekend is like, but I typically go to Richmond. I have family there, right? The traffic since the development in Drax Hall is just a new reality for people who live in that part of the country. It's just what used to be a 15-minute trip, 10-15 minutes from, say, Richmond to Ocho Rios is now minimum half an hour. And then there was an accident on the road. One truck accident caused a 5-hour traffic jam. It's insane. I know that there are plans to expand that area of the highway, and it can't come soon enough because development brings problems. That's how it goes until authorities make a plan to fix it and actually do something about it. But we've seen all the businesses that are popping up on that strip. I saw CPJ, well, them too. I remember when they were on the show and they announced that they were opening in Drax Hall. Uncorked just opened a new location at Drax Hall. We have Express Fitness there. We have KFC, Starbucks, Quartz. A few months ago opened a location there. Total Tools just opened a brand new building. The area is bustling. It is busy. And now we have all these infrastructure problems because the traffic is just insane. But that's not what we're talking about today, although infrastructure is one of those things that we do need to address in a broader sense when it comes to telecommunications. Digicel has been in Jamaica since 2020. 2001, I think. But Stephen Murad is here. He is the CEO of Digicel. He's going to tell us more. It's been several years, over 2 decades now, since Digicel has been a mainstay in Jamaica, in our telecoms infrastructure, and in our economy. Let's talk to the man who is the head of it all right now for Digicel Jamaica, Stephen Murad. Welcome to Taking Stock, Stephen.
Good evening. How are we doing? I apologise in advance. I had a rare strain of man flu all over Easter. And
Oh no.
you've got man flu. It's the worst kind of flu that anybody could have in the world. So hopefully I'll make it through. So I might sound a little croaky, but I apologise to you and obviously your viewers in advance as well.
Did you say man flu?
Man flu. It's a rare strain of flu. Only men can get it because we have zero tolerance for pain. Clearly, my wife, I probably drive her mad every single day with it. So I'm a little bit croaky, but I'm definitely on the mend. Anyway.
I love that. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that you're feeling a little bit better and that you're still able to join us despite your bout of man flu. I'm going to use that next time when a man I know gets sick. But
Exactly.
tell us a little bit about yourself, because I'm sure for our viewers, the first thing they'll notice is you don't sound Jamaican and it's a white man. tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be at Digicel.
No problem. We was 24, just as you know, on the 19th of April. We were 24 years old as well. So next year will be a big one. I'm sure everybody will be waiting for the 25th anniversary, the quarter century. So I have been out of the UK now for the last 10 years. I worked in the telecoms industry for multiple decades. I am originally from Manchester, which is in the northwest of England.
The original Manchester.
Yeah, well, I can tell you obviously a funny story that I left the UK 10 years ago, left Manchester, although I spent most of my time working in London for one of the largest telcos in the UK, and I fell in love with Jamaica. And I also fell in love with a Jamaican woman who's from Mandeville. And as you would well know, that's also in the parish of Manchester, which my mother still thinks is hilarious that I left Manchester to come all this way to marry a lady from Manchester as well. So you could say I'm indoctrinated for many years in Jamaica. I promised my wife not to speak any patois and embarrass her. So I will promise you that I will definitely not do that at all. But you never know because you can't control me sometimes as well. So, yes, my accent is not quite Jamaican. It's more from the northwest of England, which is very broad, as we would say. So we worked in the industry for a very long time. And I came to Digicel 10 years ago this year as well. And it's been an amazing experience for me to fall in love with the Caribbean and in particular with Jamaica, and ultimately to make this my home. As you talked at the start of the show, I have been in the role of the Jamaica CEO for just over 2 years now, 2 years and a couple of months. Before that, I worked in the group function. So I'm here, if you can see the image, downtown at our head office on the 6th floor. The 8th floor is the group office. So I was the regional CEO for many years, and I was supporting the other Caribbean islands. So that would have been Turks and Caicos, British Virgin Islands, Bermuda, Dominica, Barbados, Cayman Islands. So they were my markets that I supported from here in Jamaica. I used to travel a lot to those countries, and I had some great times of getting to know the different cultures around the Caribbean, in particular, all of those, because obviously, as you know, they're all very unique. So amazing experiences. But here has been my home now for a long time, and I couldn't be happier being here in Jamaica as well.
So when you first came to join Digicel 10 years ago, that's when you first came to Jamaica as well?
I originally went to the Turks and Caicos Islands. I was the CEO there, and then I came to Jamaica shortly after that. So I was in Turks for 2 years, so I've been 8 years full-time in Jamaica.
8 years. Within that 8 years that you met your lovely wife in Manchester, or from Manchester.
She is, yeah, but she's been in Kingston for a long time. She's an attorney. Apologies, the light has just gone off because we're on an auto sensor.
Oh, the motion sensor. Okay.
Sorry, because we
It
have a very
happens.
energy efficient building. Apologies, I should have.
My last show actually had a blackout in the middle of the
Oh
show.
wow. Okay.
So,
I'm anyway. We're going to pray. So yeah, my wife is actually a product of Norman Manley Law School. She's an attorney by trade. So yeah. So I met her here in Kingston, not in Mandeville. But my mother and father-in-law still live in Mandeville. My father-in-law is originally from Porus, but my mother-in-law is from Mandeville. But they're still there. So we do go back, and I know you were talking about the roads, but I was very happy when they expanded the highway.
oh, me too,
I
for
noticed that
sure.
last leg is still free of charge, so I can't complain. My journey is a lot shorter. My only complaint is I miss going to Murray's in
Ah,
Clarendon.
yes, that's
Don't get
true. That's,
the
that's a
infamous
nice rest
Murray.
stop. But
Absolutely.
but Stephen, so you said that you worked in telecoms in the UK before
I did,
joining
yeah.
Digicel. I can imagine it is night and day working in UK telecoms versus Caribbean telecoms. What was that transition like for you?
It was pretty easy, to be honest with you. The industry is the same. I know that may sound a bit different, but culturally, the UK is such a melting pot. I had lots of Jamaicans in my office, believe it or not, lots of people from all over the Caribbean, people from nationalities from India, Pakistan, Spain. You know, the UK is an absolute melting pot. So I was used to working in a multicultural society. I myself, whilst you might not know that, but my last name is not from the UK. My father was from the Middle East, who came to the UK in the very early 60s. So my mother is of Irish descent, albeit was born in the UK. So I'm also a little bit of a melting pot, and now obviously I have some Jamaicanism also in my new nationality as well. So absolutely.
But are the issues the same though, or do you find that the issues are a lot different? 'Cause, for example, here in Jamaica, one of the major issues in telecoms is theft, stealing of the wires, the cables, and that sort of thing.
Those issues are the same across the world. I don't mind telling you. That is, there's the same challenges in terms of operation. The biggest difference I could probably say versus, if I look at my Jamaica business versus my UK business, the UK business would be, majority of the business would be a postpaid business, so they would pay their bill every single month. Most of my Jamaican business will be a prepaid model. So we have prepaid in the UK, so where it originally started, but most of our customers are on a prepaid model. So they will activate prepaid plans rather than necessarily paying a monthly bill. So that would be the most immediate fundamental difference. But we both have LTE networks, so that the technology is the same. So, the UK, telecom technologies pretty much the same across the world. We would have the same challenges, both highly regulated countries and markets in the telecom space, and not that much different, to be honest. When I get to work with, amazing people like I do here in Jamaica as well, and I'm very passionate about that. The majority of my team are Jamaicans serving Jamaicans. I have a senior management team of 15 people. 14 of them are Jamaicans, apart from me, 14 of them were born here in Jamaica, but the majority of the business is Jamaicans that run the business and wake up every day thinking about how to make it better than we did yesterday. And I love that passion, and, I can never escape the Jamaican entrepreneurism that I see all around the office, and the drive and passion for the customer. So I'm very privileged. I don't mind telling you. Whilst I say I fell in love with the country and obviously the people, but I also love my job.
So what's the most challenging part of the job?
I think ultimately in any industry where we employ large amounts of people is managing people. Ultimately, that will always be the best and the most amazing challenge. How do you create a high performance culture? How do you drive productivity? to ultimately, because we're still a service industry, we service customers, because without them, this business wouldn't exist. And it's ensuring that they strive to be the best version of themselves, ultimately, to make it better for our customers. I think that will always be, I'm sure if, Michael Echin was here talking about NCB, he'll probably talk about similar challenges in making sure we get the best out of our people. So, they're ultimately the greatest challenge. There'll always be natural challenges. It could be a competitive landscape. We have different competitors today than we did 10 years ago. If you look at the OTT players, so they are, they're also competitors, but also enablers for how we operate as a business as well. So I've always approached and obviously I've come from the UK which is clearly a very highly competitive market, as a great opportunity to make sure you shine a light on yourselves. I've often pushed the teams to make sure that they challenge themselves to be a better version of themselves than they were yesterday, and strive to be the customer champion. I always say the road to fandom is a difficult road. It will have ups and downs as you challenge, but I think that's ultimately what keeps us going every single day. So I think there'll be challenges, always, every day. But getting the best out of people when you employ large organizations,
right,
that we would do, will always be the biggest challenge.
Right. You've been pretty vocal about the acts of vandalism against Digicel and against telecoms in general, and the penalties or lack thereof. What would you like to see be the penalty for vandalism?
Yeah, so there has been a piece of paper I think has been on the table for the government for a long time. I think it's making sure that it is treated as in essence a piece of national infrastructure, and any damage that's done to that can completely debilitate the country, either the economy, people going about their general everyday business, transport, security. All of those things are powered by connectivity in some shape or form. We rely so much on the internet to do this show, or just to communicate with each other. So it's important that the government pushes through to ensure that the penalties, in essence, match the crime. But for me, it's not just about that. It's about ensuring that the education all the way through of the damage that it can do to our country is severe. We've been doing a lot of work through our foundation, which is not quite 24. We're 21 years in the foundation. If you look at our campaign that we're doing at the moment, throughout the year, we're going to target about 150 schools, which is our SIT campaign, which is our Safer Internet Together. And we really focus on how to educate either the kids, the parents, the grandparents, the teachers. And we've put in 21 smart classrooms as well to help support that education piece also as well. So I think it's at every level, not just at government and the security part, but I think it's also in the education that, if you do this thing, it has a huge harm to our economy and our everyday livelihoods as well.
Let's talk competition. And I see a comment here from Sean. Sean says, where's the comment? Here we go. Digicel needs to step up their game when it comes to broadband internet. Can't believe Starlink is becoming more and more of a competition when Digicel has been around for so long.
I think I wouldn't disagree with Sean at all whatsoever. I think that's an important message that I've delivered to the team. I think the critical piece for us, Sean, will be expanding the fixed, broadband footprint outside of Jamaica. So today, that'll be the area of expansion that we'll be focusing on this year, because today we have Kingston and St Andrews, Portmore, Spanish Town, a little bit of Mandeville and Old Harbour. We've got a small footprint. I know you talked about the Dractall Richmond piece. We've got a small footprint there and a very small footprint at the start of St Thomas as well. But expanding that fixed fiber network would be one of my key pillars, certainly over the next 3 years, and certainly in the next month or so, we'll be announcing to the public where we're expanding on a mass scale next. So I think, I would not disagree with Sean at all whatsoever. That's critical for me, and me obviously pushing my team, and which may not be overtly obvious, but that's a significant multi-million-dollar investment that I've secured from the group business, from the mother business, to invest that money here in Jamaica as well. So like any organization, I would go and, for want of a phrase, I guess I'm on the right show, I would go and pitch for that investment. And, I ensured that to convince the board that Jamaica is the place to put that investment. And, I'm very happy to say that that's coming as well, which is obviously great for us.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I do want to go into that side of things as well. But first, on Starlink, how do you perceive the competition coming from Starlink? Because I know in some countries, the approach by telecoms has been to try to get them blocked because they're not registered locally and that type of thing.
Yeah, I would never want to enter into that kind of rhetoric at all whatsoever. I see opportunity, and certainly they're not the only. Funny enough, they're not the only person that's putting satellites in the sky. I think yesterday or the day before I saw on the news the piece of work that Amazon are doing. I think they launched 27 satellites also in the sky as well. So I always see competition as another opportunity to, forgive the phrase, to put another notch in your belt. I think it's important that we keep shining the mirror on ourselves, ensure that we push ourselves to be better than what we are today. For me, whilst we've only had the fixed business for about almost 10 years now as well, that'll be, if my school report was here, that'll be one that we must try harder and expand that fiber footprint across, the majority of the island of Jamaica. That's the one thing that we can't stop now. We've done, I think, over the 24 years, a good job at building a very large mobile telecoms network across the country. Now we need to focus on building a island-wide fiber network and passing as many homes and businesses as we possibly can do. So I think that's my priority. But I see competition as a great opportunity to push yourselves. But I also never say never, because there are also partnership opportunities as well, where there are gaps, and you'll see that around probably the US. I think it's probably the most obvious piece of the work that they've done with Verizon and T-Mobile. So I would also never say never, because, why not partner with people who maybe have an expertise in satellite, because there's other ones. I don't just want to name Starlink, because there's other ones there as well. That maybe there's an opportunity for partnership where there are coverage gaps that maybe, our infrastructure can't serve today, and maybe there's an immediate opportunity to partner. So I'm a very optimistic around the future of Jamaica, and I think this, getting connectivity to all parts of Jamaica, I think is a good thing. I'm not naive to think.
I ask because I remember when voice over internet became a thing, VoIP, and I remember like WhatsApp calling, and there were different apps that you could use to make calls. And Digicel tried to have that technology blocked so that we can continue using the regular service, the straight line service, and so on. I remember that was very controversial at the time, that telecoms didn't want us to do WhatsApp calling and probably even FaceTime and that type of thing.
Yeah. And then for me, I guess, for me, I'm really, for me, it just presents opportunity. I'm not a purveyor in trying to put so many restrictions in. I think, that's, we live in a country, a democratic country, and people have choices. Selfishly, I want them to choose me 100% of the time, and that's great. But I understand, the OTT players. I know you talked about WhatsApp. There's obviously lots of others now iMessage and, the Google Hangout and things that people use, as well as, the traditional, Skype, but obviously Teams, is an everyday occurrence in a lot of businesses, and ours included. So I'm more of an embracer of these things, and how could we partner or enable, because, people will make choices that are right for them. And I see us as an enabler. One of our core businesses is connectivity, and I want to make sure, whether I'm at home, in the office, or people may have seen the launch today of the Jamaica Auto Show, which is happening not this weekend, the following weekend on the 10th and the 11th, and you see the changes in the automotive industry of how they've merged the telephone integrated with the dash in the car, and whether it be Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Now your phone screen is now integrated in your car dash. I mean, probably 10 years ago, everybody wanted to see if we could get a sound system into my car, which may have been a Clarion or a Sony. So I almost said cassette player then, to show me.
I haven't seen one of those in a while.
Long time, and auto reverse.
You mentioned, Stephen, about potentially raising funds for Digicel's island-wide expansion of the fiber network. And that brings me to, this question is coming. You're on Taking Stock. Everybody now in the comments wants to know if Digicel would do an IPO, perhaps Digicel Jamaica, because I know the larger company is global.
Yeah, I mean, that would not be a call for the Jamaica business. That would always be for the group function. The Jamaica is the largest business within the group function, but, those decisions would be taken at a group board level. My job every day is to make sure we continue to, build an amazing business on the 24 years of heritage, and make sure that we're doing the best we can for our customers every single day. And that I wake up every single day to think about our customers. Those things, really a group-led function. That they would make choices in the future. I mean, who knows about what's the right thing for the business. So for me, I wake up every day and just worry about the Jamaica business and my Jamaican customers. That's the most important thing for me.
So any type of raise would be an international raise, even for the project that you mentioned, the island-wide expansion?
Group level. It will be at the group level. If the business decided to IPO or, whatever maybe, that will be at the group level discussion, not for me at the Jamaica business level.
Learn, Grow, Invest wants to know if Digicel is profitable.
We're a privately owned company, and I can be safe to say that, I wouldn't be sat here if this business wasn't profitable. I probably would have been replaced a long time ago.
2 years ago, there were some issues with Digicel bondholders and Digicel bonds, and that had to be restructured. Would you say that Digicel is out of those waters now, that things are going a lot better than they were in 2023?
I think we've got an improving story. Like any company around the world, we'll go through similar sort of challenges. We're a very capex heavy industry. We spend hundreds of millions building the infrastructure, so we're a very capex heavy industry. So we're no different to any other industry in that. We obviously went through the change of control, which you just touched on, but I think we're an improving story, definitely. So I'm really positive, and it's a similar message. I did a town hall, funnily enough, yesterday with the teams around our performance and the improving story of the business, and the group CEO would have done a similar town hall to all of the company last week as well. So I'm really positive about the outlook of the business. So I think the future is very bright for our Digicel business as well. I think we'll continue to paint the streets red, definitely.
Next question comes from, it's a comment from Shells. Shell says, I know I don't like Digicel, but I can't remember why. LOL. Come people, y'all need to speak up. So all people who always complain about Digicel, you have the CEO on. Ask him what you want to ask him. Sean wants to know, what new technology or business is Digicel planning to get into in the next 5 years or so?
Hey Sean, thanks for the question. I think if I can probably give you two answers, because I think there's the immediacy. So expanding the fiber footprint will be core, and that's not just in terms of homes passed. So ensuring we got fibre to all of the sites will be critical for future. We're in the final phases of launching the VoLTE, which is voice over LTE, so a traditional voice call over the LTE network, and that will be both locally and internationally. So you'll see that launched throughout the rest of this year, so locally and internationally. And then obviously in the future there will be looking at what does the next iteration, which would be 5G. But what we have been deploying in between that will be the capacity expansions on site. So ensuring that we satisfy the Jamaican thirst for more and more data. So capacity expansions is my immediate focus, so on the site. And then because of obviously the buildings that have been going on around the country and expansion, is ensuring that we maximize the coverage. So we'll continue to look and optimize where we need to expand new sites or co-locations or site sharing that we have across the island as well. So thanks for the question, Sean, as well.
Real Rashad wants to know, will Digicel offer eSIM services and plans to mobile watches like Apple Watch?
Hey, great question, Real Rashad. Sorry, I don't know your government name, but we are trying to get that out the door this year. So hopefully watch this space. I'm hoping in the second half of this year, but I'm there with you. We have demand for smart, let's call them smart devices. So absolutely.
Next question comes from Cash Top-Ups, who wants to know if Digicel will have their version of Yard and Road, which is the service offered by your competitor that allows you to have one service for both internet on your phone and at home.
Yeah.
Mobile and
yeah,
plan.
I understand. Yeah, so great question. Again, sorry, I don't know your government name, with Cash Top-Up. So a converged bill, I think, is really the phrase that I would use. So being able to see both products, because clearly we sell both products today. We sell home internet services and we sell mobile services, but they are currently on a different billing platforms. So we have a project that we've been working on in the background to offer a converged bill to our customers. So I would say watch this space. But I would also just would like to throw this out there. So I've worked in multiple countries where we have converged bills. And also, I would also argue that sometimes when people see one bill and they see the two amounts of money put together, it can also be a shock to the system as well. So I've also seen the not so positive side of that as well. But we are working on a converged billing platform also as well.
So you have the option.
Correct.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I wouldn't mind at all. Do you guys do family plans?
We have the ability today. So if you want to add multiple accounts to your account, you can do that today. No problem at all. It's not something, I'll be honest with you, we get asked for very often. It was something we used to be a bit more prevalent in years ago, but not too much.
Yeah, I guess because most people do the prepaid. So
exactly,
family sharing and the minutes and so on isn't applicable. Hurricane season is upon us, Stephen. May is right here. June is right after that. Are you ready?
We were doing a practice, funny enough, today. I should have told you this before we came on the call. So we were doing some drills today. It's not something that we answer. So the hurricane season, as you know, starts on the 1st of June, but it's not something that we only wait for the 1st of June. So basically every single day, because the network is a living, breathing entity, we have to ensure that it runs at optimum level every single day. So, you know, that's something that we don't take for granted. So we were doing some drills today, obviously tabletop drills. I'm going through some new training for the teams. We also look at what happened last year. So as you would remember, in July, we had Hurricane Beryl, and then we had the sort of elements of Tropical Storm Raphael, which was coming a little bit later as well. So we looked in particular at the Hurricane Beryl learnings, and you probably would have remembered when we went to the OUR seminar as well. Some of the big learnings for us was on the fuel generation. So we rely on generators and batteries if the JPS commercial power goes out for any particular times as well. So we deployed more generators, but maybe some of the viewers would have seen probably almost 6 or 7 weeks ago, I announced that we'd signed a multi-year solar generation project. So we've started that work now. We won't deliver all of the sites that we want onto solar by the time we're in this hurricane season, but by the time we hit the next one, we'll get to probably about 56%-ish of the sites will be on solar. So it'll give us more support, so we'll be able to generate our own energy that we can store in the lithium batteries if the commercial power goes out as well. So we're obviously looking at beefing up our protection of the assets, which obviously is the mobile network infrastructure as well. So that work's already started. We should probably have the first sites. We will have a couple of sites on hopefully by maybe August time. So a lot of work to do on that, but I think that's a really important investment for the business as well, also.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Stephen. I'm looking forward to those initiatives coming up by Digicel, especially the expansion, because a lot of communities are waiting for your fiber network to hit them and all the other things that you have in store. Thanks for joining us.
And I'd like to say a huge thank you to your listeners and obviously to all of our customers as well, whether they're on the call, and maybe some of them are as well. So thank you very much. I did see one person, Jackie, she said, I love Digicel. I noticed you didn't mention that one, but thank you, Jackie. I love you too as well. So thank you, everybody. And thank you also for allowing me to come on your show as well. I know it took just over 2 years, so I apologize. And hopefully you'll invite me back again in the future and I can bring some more updates. And I guess and Mr. Sean Brown can ask some more questions on the technology side as well. So thanks very much. Have a great evening.
You too, Stephen. Thank you. And now it's time to go to our poll question for the evening. It has nothing to do with Digicel and everything to do with Trump tariffs and Shein and all the drama that is going on there. It's news by the day, news by the hour when it comes to President Trump. So here's our question. Will you still be shopping at Shein now that prices have been raised to cover the tariffs? If you missed that news, Shein has in some instances doubled their prices. They have raised their prices by quite a bit to include the tariffs that now have to be paid because of, what do they call it again? Not Nomination Day. What was it? Can't remember the name. Freedom Day? Something along those lines. But yeah, the new tariffs. So Shein has raised their prices. I know Shein is very popular in Jamaica, but will you continue shopping there now that they have raised their prices, especially so dramatically? So A, yes, their prices are still cheap enough. B, no, I'm looking at other stores now. C, I never shopped at Shein or other. Leave a comment. Let me know. Will you still be shopping at Shein now that they've raised their prices to cover the Trump tariffs? A, yes, their prices are still cheap enough, still cheaper than other people. No, I'm looking at other stores now. C, I never shopped at Shein to begin with. Or D, other. Leave a comment. So you can comment in the chat or take that poll over on X, formerly known as Twitter, or on the community tab of our YouTube channel. You'll also get it in your email tomorrow morning. Take that poll. Leave your answers in the chat as well. Up next, we've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. Market Recap is brought to you by MyMoneyJA, the official data partner of Money Media. Get 10% off your subscription with the code MONEYMISSION. The JSE Combined Index gained 3,000 points last week, or 1%. 127 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, April 25, 2025. 66 made gains, 49 lost value, and 12 stayed the same. 56 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $294 million. TransJam was the week's most traded stock, with 14 million shares changing hands. It started the week at $3.61. Wigton traded the second most shares. The stock opened Monday at $1.20. And One rounded out last week's most traded, up 7%. Now let's see who had the biggest gains of the week. Cigna's Credit Investments USD was the JSE's top stock, up 26% to open the week at 9 cents US. Margaritaville had the second biggest gain, up 21%, and One Great Studio rounded out the top stocks, up 19%. On the losing side now, A.S. Bryden & Sons USD was the week's biggest loser. The stock lost 20% to start the new week at 16 cents US. Dolphin Cove also fell 20%, and R.A. Williams lost 20% to close out the week at 53 cents. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index gained 6 points last week, or about 0.5%. Massey was the TTSE's most traded stock. It opened Monday at $4.04 TT. Angostura was the market's top gainer, up 5% to start the week at $14.80 TT. And on the losing side, West Indian Tobacco fell 8% to open Monday at $5.02 TT. Over in the U.S., the Dow Jones was up 3% last week, while the S&P 500 gained 5.5% and the Nasdaq climbed 8%. At the pumps, gas prices climbed $1.88 last week, while the cost of regular diesel gained 25 cents and low sulfur diesel was up 98 cents. In foreign exchange trading, it took an average $159.11 Jamaican to purchase $1 US last Friday. That's 52 cents more than the week before. $1 Canadian cost an average $116.93 Jamaican. $1 British pound cost $210.92 Jamaican. And you could buy €1 for $181.27 Jamaican on average. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices were up 1% over the past 5 days, trading at $94,506 on Monday, while Ethereum dipped 0.5%, trading at $1,785 on Monday. Market Recap was brought to you by My Money JA, the official data partner of Money Media. I'm inviting you to my next Money Talk on Wednesday, May 7th, starting at 6:30. And I'm also going to be launching my brand new Money Mission workbook. So if you're ready to change your financial future, join me on Wednesday, May 7th. But space is limited. Go to moneymissiontalks.com to sign up. Let's get this money.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analyst, is brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart. Disclaimer: this is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions.
Welcome back. So you saw the announcement. I'm hosting my first ever Money Mission Talks on May 7th, Wednesday, May 7th. It's going to be at the AC Hotel starting at 6:30 p.m. next week, Wednesday, May 7th. In-person event. It is a free event, and I hope to see you there. Go to moneymissiontalks.com to sign up for this event. And yes, you do need to be on the guest list, so don't just show up. You need to be on the list because space is limited. We will be streaming it live as well right here on YouTube for those of you who would like to watch. But you still need to register because we're gonna make it a private link. So we'll send you the YouTube link once you register, something like that. We're gonna figure that out. But yes, moneymissiontalks.com to register for this free event. It's gonna be my first live public talk. I'm excited about that, and we're using the opportunity to launch the Money Mission workbook, which has been about 5 years in the making. So I was hoping to have a copy to show to you today. We're really cutting it down to the wire, but we will be launching the workbook next week, Wednesday at Money Mission Talks, along with the revamped Investing for Beginners course, which put a lot of work into improving the course and making sure that it answers all the questions that you have and helps you make better investment decisions. And for those of you who are just getting started, helps you to make your very first investments. Let me take some of our comments right now. Let me see, what are you guys saying? TJH Army is always in the chat saying, where are you at? Keep the courage. We're in this together. Somebody said they're tired of the freeness on the highway. They need TJH to start charging. Jackie says, love you more, Digicel. Raquel says, thank you to Digicel. Real Rashad was reminding me that it was Liberation Day. Yes, the Liberation Day tariffs. Thanks for that, Real Rashad. Responses to the poll question now about Shein. So let's remind you what that was. Will you still be shopping at Shein now that prices have been raised to cover the tariffs? A, yes, their prices are still cheap enough. B, no, I'm looking at other stores now. C, I never shopped at Shein. D, other, leave a comment. C, Shell says C, which was I never shopped at Shein. Learn, Grow, Invest says E. What does E mean? What is Shein? The shade. What is Shein? O'Shane says, I made my Shein order already. Hope it reached before the tariff hit. Raquel is reminding everybody to like the video. Thank you, Raquel, our like police. I always appreciate you. Shell says, Jeff is a coward. That's Jeff Bezos. He backed down from displaying the tariff charge on Amazon. I saw that today, that Trump threw a fit because Amazon was including a little surcharge showing what the price of this item is with the tariffs. And they back down. They're not going to do it after they don't want to get on Trump's bad side. Raquel says C, meaning I never shopped at Shein. Okay, so continue taking that poll. Life Roots says D, other. What's other for you, Life Roots? Lance says need a gold price watch. Yeah, maybe we should add that to market recap since the price of gold has been rising a lot lately. Need a couple things. When does the price increase go in effect? Says Natoya. I feel like it's immediate. I think they said immediately, so it might be too late for you if you wanted to avoid that price increase. Natoya done. Let's see who else we have here. Yeah, well, let's get into our analyst segment now then. Joining us for our discussion tonight is corporate manager at JMMB, Leovani Dillon, and taking stock analyst David Rose. Welcome back, Leo and David.
Good night, Kalila.
Great to have you. So, Leo, we'll take you first because you've been looking at One-on-One's Q2 results. One-on-One is an interesting company. They're an educational company, edutech, but their business model goes kind of beyond that, I would say. So for those who are not familiar with One-on-One, just give us a little bit about what they do, and then let's get into their Q2 results.
Yeah, man. All right. So One-on-One company, the primary thing that they're geared towards is really taking education to the masses. So mainly geared, they have education segments like the K to 12. So that's like in the high schools across the Caribbean and Latin America. They offer some like a service, classroom in a box. So basically that's like an offline service, like you download the information there that you use for lessons, and then you can use that without being connected directly to the internet. So they offer a lot of services and they're building out services. One of the main things driving them now that they're focused on is the One Academy, which is about, again, learning. So one of the things that it helps is the teachers to build out lesson plans for the students, so that would cut down the time required, and of course the quality of the lesson plans that they can build out in a short space of time. So they are making some inroads, smoothing out the revenue, because they have a history of choppy revenue and profitability. So they're kind of moving more to a sustainable model. So yeah, so that's basically it in terms of what the company does.
So they've grown quite a bit. You mentioned, they've had choppy revenue, but their revenues for the past 6 months ended, I don't remember ended when, but it's up 54%. They had 111 million, now they're at 170 million. How did they do that?
Yeah, man. All right. So one of the main drivers for that is the same One Academy. So let's take a look on the slides here, right? So if you look, this is showing the Q2 numbers in particular. So that's ended February 2025. for them. And you can see what you just mentioned there. Well, a part of it, because it's not the 6 months, but just the last quarter. You can see that jump in revenue from 56.7 to $78 million. And then they move from a loss of 9.9 to a profit of 7 million. So you're seeing that improvement there. That has been one of the drivers behind their performance. That new product here, One Academy, is a more stable revenue source for them. It has led in the near term to, which is also a good thing for them. It's surged the direct cost is up a bit, so you can see that move from 18 to 22 million, and part of that is the hardware that they give to the schools in order to help them access the service. But that is likely to trail, as in like, that expense is likely to taper off over time. So then, of course, you'll have the revenue coming in still, that expense taper off, and then that's going to be better for them in the future. So that's one thing that's going on there. And then, all right, so this is just a broad overview of the performance, and I'm going to spend too long here. But one thing to highlight in particular is the movement in equity for the company. So, of course, the IPO back in 2022 surged equity to about 441 million. And then now it's at 423 million. Now, part of the reason for that is, again, as you can see here, well, this doesn't fully show it, but if you look on the year-end numbers for the company, what you've seen is that they've been swinging and making some losses, and those losses, that swing in terms of going from profit to loss and some big losses too, has kind of eaten away at the numbers of the company. Now, when you look on the stock price performance, so if you look on it on a month-by-month basis, which is shown here on this slide, what you'd see is that when the company just listed, when it just listed, it did very well in terms of the stock price, but then it kind of fell off. And of course, you can see each year it's actually been in the negative in terms of down, right? So again, that's a symptom of the volatility in the earnings of the company. And of
Explain
course,
to the viewers what those colors are telling us, the green
okay.
and red and stuff.
Okay, all right. So it's on a scale. So for example, the deeper the green as it is in this, the better the performance in that month. So what is it showing, right? Is each year the performance of the stock in that month, in a month in that year. So for example, if you look on the very first column there, right, that one in green there, that is showing when the company listed, that was it back in 2022, in that month, what was the performance? It was like about 22%, 22, 23%. So that's showing what the performance was. And then the last column there is showing what the overall performance was for the year. So for example, in this case, it was 6.1% in 2022, down 6.1, and then down 13% in 2023. So it's just a way to quickly grasp how the stock price has moved over time, right? Of course, you can use charts and do it also, but this is also another way to kind of get a snapshot of the movement. For this company, it might not do the best because, of course, it's not listed that long. But if you have a company with a bigger track record, it kind of shows patterns in the movement. It can show you patterns, for example, if in a particular month it tends to outperform, and that, so it kind of gives you that kind of information. But this is, of course, the more traditional way of looking at it. So you can see the stock price performance over time. As I highlighted on the previous one, you can
Their
see
IPO
earlier,
price was $1, right?
yeah, $1, and then it, of course, shot up to over $2.20, almost $2.40 on the close. And of course, since then trailed off, which is kind of what you saw playing out on the heat map a while ago, where you saw that big performance in the first month, and then you kind of see a trailing off. So that's what has been happening. Again, a consequence of the volatility, and they didn't quite meet the expectations set out in the prospectus. I mean, to be fair, the market has been problematic recently in terms of the performance, so it's not like it's just them in terms of one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah, so to be fair to them, that's that the overall market is under pressure. However, how the performance has been hasn't really been helpful for them in terms of the profit, in terms of the volatility. So if you zoom in a bit now and you look on just 2025, as in a year to date now, right? What you're seeing is that year to date, the stock is, well, still down 4, but the junior market on a whole down 7. Again, the overall market not doing so hot, and you can see that volatility there in the movement. So the lowest point for the year was down about 17%. So it being down 4, yes, it's down, but it's way better than it's been in recent times. And yeah, and then now we're just taking a quick look here at the trading activity. So 2022, again, company listed was very active. As is usual, a lot of times when you have hot IPOs in terms of a lot of volume. So in that year, for that, few months that it was listed, the average daily volume was around $4 million. Now it's about 1.5 million, better than it's been in recent years. Basically, more persons are interested in the stock. There's a recently a release on the stock exchange with the director selling a large amount of stock. So that probably influenced some of the volumes in terms of the activity on the stock in recent months. So that's also showing up there. This chart here with the historical PE, that's a key thing to show. This highlights that volatility that I was referring to in terms of the profitability, because you can see when a PE at a company, for example, in this case at one point was over 2,000%, during that period, the earnings would have been very small, as in at the trading earnings. And then when it goes negative, then of course that's a sign that the company is, in a loss-making position, right? So whenever you see these PE charts that look this aggressive, in terms of the numbers that are shown, in this case over like 500 is the average, and 2,000. When it get this aggressive, is a sign of volatility in terms of the actual earnings numbers, because usually it wouldn't be this volatile, right? So that kind of highlights it there. And then of course the PB ratio, of course, would be more stable because that's the book value. Now, overall, so to kind of sum it up, because I kind of went through a lot there, right? So overall for the company, you're seeing some green shoots, right? So you're seeing, for example, that you had some surge in expenses, but that's expected to trail off now as they invest, and then those investments pay off, meaning persons using the product but they don't have to keep outlaying that initial expense. So that's good for them. Also, you're seeing direct costs being managed better at the company. So that's keeping the profits up. And then one of the key things is that the cash position of the company. So as at the end of February 2025, so right there, that's $110 million in cash. That is significant because it's up 111% over the previous quarter. So at the end of November, and then now at the end of February, it's up 111%. So a big improvement there. And part of that, one of the key drivers to that is actually the operating cash flow was $121 million in the recent 6 months period, which is actually pretty high for the company. I think on an annual basis, I don't think even on an annual basis they've made that much money in terms of operating cash flow, which is very important, because profit's important, yes, but operating cash flow is extremely important, because a company can actually be profitable and then meet into challenges because they're not having that strong operating cash flow. So
profitable on paper.
Yeah, profitable on paper.
The money, you're not
but not
collecting
the money. Yes, but they are collecting, and that is showing up in the numbers. So that's very good for them. And so there are some issues. So yes, very volatile profits. The business model is still relatively new, especially in the Jamaican Caribbean landscape, and they are going to be vulnerable to new technologies. So I see that they're doing things in the AI space to help boost their product offerings. However, we know how this space is. This space is there's a lot of money being spent on this space, and it can be very disruptive. So there are some risks there. But overall, though, in terms of so far for the financials, it's improving. It's not quite there yet where it needs to be, but it's definitely better. And you're seeing steps that they're taking that are setting them up for a better future.
When we see these increases in revenues, these large increases in revenues, you do want to get excited, but is it sustainable? Do you think that what they've set up now, how they're managing things, that this is the path forward for them and it will continue along this trajectory?
Yeah. All right. So, again, it's difficult to say because, again, the space is quite disruptive. However, I can say the position that they've set themselves for me is better than it was historically. So, historically, when you look on how they were generating a lot of their numbers, it was kind of like project based. So then as the project ends, then that revenue kind of disappears. How it is now, it's way more sustainable. But the reason why, again, I'm hesitant to say so it's here to stay is because of how disruptive this space can be. Because of course we see how some of these AI technologies when they release, how they completely change the landscape in terms of certain business models almost instantly become not as viable. or at least significantly cut into it. So again, they are deploying some of these technologies, and they do have, they can create an edge that way in terms of like create a little moat for themselves. But at the same time, though, the way these technologies are advancing, to me, that creating a significant risk factor for them, because it can basically eat away at that moat that they've probably built. But it is definitely more sustainable than it has been in terms of the when they initially came to the market, in terms of how the revenue base was structured. It's definitely better.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much for that assessment, Leo. One-on-one is one that we keep our eye on to see what is going on with them and their competitor. Well, competitor loosely, because they have different models to do focal, which
that's
the story right
under
now.
pressure. Yeah, that's under pressure.
Yeah, they've been under pressure. So we'll talk about that another time. But
Yeah.
the next company we want to look at tonight is Knutsford Express, which David has been studying. Revenue for them was also up, not as aggressively as one-on-one. We have a 3% increase in revenue for Knutsford Express reported in their Q3 results. So tell us what's going on with Knutsford, David.
So Knutsford, highlighted that revenue was up, which is always a good sign. But one caveat they faced was that they had higher operational costs. So not the difference between two businesses, right? So you have the courier business and you have the investment property business, right? So when everybody was just looking at Draxal saying, looks pretty, Knutsford said, hey, we're going to stake or put everything to this space and take opportunity. So, they would have developed their main hub in Draxal, and they own a plaza basically right there, and they generate a consistent lease income from businesses that are based on that property. So if you've been to Draxal, you know that there is a KFC nearby, Elite Diagnostic is in that same stretch. So that's why Press owns a part of that space, and they generate income from that space on their investment properties. So they generate $100 million worth of revenue for the 9 months, generating $40 million worth of before tax. So that's to kind of show you that the investment property business, pretty stable, fine, comfortable. However, when it came on to the transportation and courier business, they had a pretty steep jump, about 15% increase in admin expenses from a segment-based perspective. And because of those increase in expenses, Knutsford Express was impacted by a low bottom line. So their profitability, profit before tax, for the 9 months was down 33%. So it went down from 251 million down to 168 million. So that's to kind of show you the decline in that sense as to what's really taking place for Knutsford Express. Now, it's not the end of the world, but at the same time, you definitely can see, that they are doing some activities. And one thing which I wish was standardized or required was a more comprehensive explanation, because Knutsford Express's MD&A or its attempt at an MD&A only said, mentioned, the sublease passenger arrivals into Jamaica, but it didn't go into context as to the potential issues that are taking place, for the company in the current period, because Knutsford Express is investing heavily into more PP&E, by more renting properties, but it didn't give a context as to what caused the massive jump in admin expenses. So we're just left here trying to figure things out. But the context that Knutsford provided in terms of, the impact of the tourism arrivals or them being down in the most recent period, it kind of tells you that, companies in that space are having to be more agile and strategic. So we can look at Express Catering, which, has a reporting period that's the same like Knutsford Express. They would have reported a relative reduction in revenue, but they did, point out that they're able to control direct costs very aggressively, which is why their bottom line actually expanded.
I was just thinking about that comparison, because on our last show, we had Jody Ann Aris from Sagicor, who was looking at Express Catering's numbers, and I'm thinking about the comparison, because what does this say about Jamaica's tourism industry right now, having these two companies that are in the tourism industry reporting these issues?
Well, it's kind of hard to really gauge that extent because, for one, Dolphin Cove is a silent ghost. We have been audited numbers. Q1 is coming around, so we can't use them to get any context of what's going on. But, when I think back to the pliers, when I think back to the express catering and CPJs and so forth, each of them is a different story. So in the case of express catering, they're feeling direct impacts because of how their business model is set up. They operate the food-based businesses in the airport, the Dairy Queens, the Nathans, and so on and so forth. And they have to be hunkering down on cost to keep the bottom line from shrinking. Then you have the contrast with Knutsford Express, whereby they're mentioning that, there is some impact they're facing with respect to the transportation business. They're not broken up further context into it, but they're likely seeing a reduction from on that side, and potentially are making up from higher inland travel with domestic Jamaicans and their courier business. And then we look at, for argument, take a CPJ, whereby they mentioned, the hotel businesses has seen a decline in traffic there, but they're looking more so towards the offside villa space, where, that premium market, to shore up revenue and grow the bottom line. So even Playa, they mentioned, that they lost about $20-30 million because of the travel advisory last year in terms of lost revenue. And we've seen a lot of aggressive discounting by hoteliers in recent times. Like I tell people all the time, the newspaper and TV and traditional media is your best indicator to understand when things are going wrong. When you see, for example, certain hotels offering 20%, 30% discounts on social media, in the paper or anything like that, it says that they're under pressure. When you're seeing, for example, more auto dealers offering, dealers off the lot, or trying to have these sales promotions, it says that sales are slow. So when it comes to the whole tourism space right now, we would have seen some relative improvement, in the last couple of days because of Carnival. But Carnival is a particular season. At the same time, it is mainly concentrated towards one part of the island. The St. International Airport and the North Coast is where most of our tourism-based activities take place. And yes, we would have had karate, we would have had Champs, we'd have had Grand Slam track, we'd have had Messi, we've had a Carnival. But the thing is, the tourism space is still relatively compressed. And all this is telling me is that it's going to be a tough period, and it's going to be a period where everybody has to focus on pivoting and see how they can best attract business. Because right now, and this is why I like to do my research across different markets, data coming out of the US right now, post new administration, is that you're seeing a lot less inbound traffic coming into the USA. Like I think that's like a 30 or 40% drop in traffic going into the USA. And while some people are going to be like, hey, Jamaica is right here, the thing is, you have to remember that the USA has a very wide and diverse mixture of arrivals. Whereas for the case of Jamaica, most arrivals come from the USA, Canada, and UK. And if the USA is seeing some level of economic contraction in different markets, and persons are deferring spending and persons defer their own travel to Jamaica, for example, there's not going to be a significant windfall coming back to our side. So the short and simple of it is, tourism is not suffering, but it's not in the greatest place either. Don't get me wrong, Carnival did a great job for the hoteliers and the local economy in this sphere of the country. But for the broader North Coast, where most activity takes place, you're definitely seeing that impact showing up in the numbers. And everybody has to be trying to contain costs to really, ensure that they can weather this storm.
Yeah. So it trust me, Trump just came and shake up everything, because last year it was all about the hotel rooms, and Ed Bartlett every minute was on the news announcing how many more rooms coming, how many more seats coming, and this year is just like a completely different story. But let's zoom in on the numbers for Knutsford Express. This is My Money JA. They closed at $12.48 today. They're trading at a P of almost 30. And I want to look at their latest report, which is what you are referencing, because those Q3 numbers are out. And this is one of the things I love about My Money JA, by the way, is that you can see these charts right here. So these are their Q3 numbers compared to the same period the previous year. So the gray bar is 2023, 2024 Q3 income, $570 million. And this year we're seeing an improvement. The blue bar, this is revenue again, up to 595 million, up 4%. We look here at expenses though. This is what you were pointing out, David. So 24, their expenses were 459 million, call it 460 million. And now their expenses have gone up to 545 million. So those expenses have gone up by 18%, which is quite substantial, which of course means that they have a reduction in profitability. So last year they had $110 million in profit, and that is down this year to just about 50 million in profit. So profitability is down 55%.
Yeah. And, just before we probably close off, right now, I'm just, a lot more circumspect and deliberate, in this current period. So the volatility in US market, it's an amazing thing once you, have the capital, have the wherewithal and the time to really take advantage of it. In Jamaica right now, I'm being a lot more realistic about liquidity, because deals might be out there, but will you be in a position to realize those investment opportunities and realize significant profit? So Dolphin Co, for example, is on 36% year to date. And that stock is just like a roller coaster. It's here, drops, goes back up, drops, and we don't know when it's going to potentially go back up right now. And, I'm the merchant Dolphin Cove, and it's just an unfortunate situation that shareholders are basically caught in this tug of war without some level of clarity, because in Mexico, there's a battle between the apparent former CEO and the administrator, and then the former CEO apparently making comments or commands here in Jamaica. So it's just this big confusing mess. But one thing that,
and we've invited Stafford Burrows to come on the show. He said he's not doing interviews right now, unsurprisingly.
It's a messy situation, Kalila, because you would have seen the documents that, the company that put on the website, with respect to Mr. Burrows and the emails and everything that's in between. And then at the same time, because the thing is, Stafford actually is an owner in the ultimate parent company that's based in Delaware. And, it's unfortunate because him and other directors on the board of the ultimate parent company have been removed. The parent company, the majority one, is currently in bankruptcy court in Delaware. And it's just this public spot that is not good for anybody. But one thing that I was speaking to somebody about and saying that based on my understanding of, what I read so far in the court documents, I likely see a reduction in the interest of World of Dolphins within the next year, based on the bankruptcy proceedings play out, for the parent company to see if they can monetize some of their assets to continue to get some liquidity and pay down some debt.
And what would that mean for shareholders?
Well, depending on who buys in, it might be an opportunity for greater stock price appreciation, because if another significant investor comes in and can enhance the value of Dolphin Cove even further, it's a win for all shareholders. But the current problem right now is it's just an information vacuum. There's no audited numbers, so shareholders only have numbers up to September 30. You have this battle between the chairman and the other majority shareholder in the ultimate parent company, and you have this bankruptcy proceeding taking place in Delaware, and an apparent fight between the administrator, the person that handling the bankruptcy and the former CEO. So Dolphin Cove is just an interesting site. And if they don't get audited numbers out by the end of May, they can be suspended by the JSE from trading. So if we don't see the numbers come out tomorrow and we don't get an update or get updated potentially saying end of May, it's going to be a rough time for some shareholders.
Yeah, so it go. So, but bottom line on Knutsford, which is what we started talking about earlier, is this company, is 2025 looking like it could be a standout year for Knutsford? It could be. What is the thinking behind looking at Knutsford stock in 2025?
So for me, Knutsford, you need to get to the AGM to ask questions because the annual reports and the MD&As or whatever they try to put in the quarterly reports are not any help. But one thing for sure is that they bought, so in Mandeville, they've actually bought some property in Mandeville, not sure specifically where. You know, Mandeville is going to benefit tremendously, or has benefited recently from the phase 1C of Highway 2000. You know, they just bought some investment property again. So Knutsford Express right now is basically, you know, doing a mixture of more property investments and further growing its fleet of courier-based business. Sorry, growing its fleet of vehicles to improve its transportation capacity of people across the island alongside its courier business. So for me, I see Knutsford Express as this decent cash generating business with literally minimal debt and just a focused team that just doesn't care about updating the public with adequate updates. But realistically speaking, it's still a great investment for persons who bought at IPO. Let me just check right now until quickly before we cut off, because I actually have the data as to the stock price when the company listed. So Knutsford Express listed at
$1.02.
$5.11 at IPO. After the 5-to-1 stock split, that comes up to
They had a stock
1.02.
split.
Correct. So it comes up to 1.022 at $12. That's more than 10x since 2014. So over 10 years, 10x your money. If we're counting any dividends and the business is still growing, the most recognized brand for cross-country travel and their low debt, constantly generating cash. It's a great business, and it's relatively tight in terms of available shares. So it doesn't take much for the stock to spike in value.
Learn, grow, invest says, you mean an IPO came out that wasn't $1? That's a more recent innovation, though, because there was a time when all the IPOs weren't $1. Remember, Fontana was what was the number? It was some
$1.88, I think.
Yeah,
yeah, it was. I remember they chose that specific number for a reason. With Cinco also wasn't $1, so it's like 2019 that we started.
Yeah, it's a recent trend. Everybody's
trend.
doing dollar. Yeah.
Yeah, and Knutsford Express was 2014, so way before the dollar stocks became a thing.
I know the funny thing, Kalila, even during the dollar period, Fesco came at 80 cents.
Yeah.
So I checked all the data right now, you know. The number there was $1.20. Caribbean Transfer got $1.91. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, most companies tend to max out at around $1 now in terms of the IPO. I think the last one that wasn't that was probably Image Plus. I think it was $2. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the good thing about
I remember when Image Plus listed at that price, and people were like, "Why isn't it $1?"
Yes, yeah, that's the thing, because everybody's used to $1 now. Yeah, that's the new thing now.
Well, one good thing about it earlier is that we just heard that the Governor General gave us $0.01, and the threshold has now been increased from 500 million to 750. So
finally, effective when?
From March 13, Kalila.
Oh, so it's already in effect.
Okay.
Correct. Correct.
So the next junior market IPO can go for the 750.
Correct. $3.75 billion valuation.
Well, I suspect that a few of them are coming now because they're companies that have just been waiting for that to take effect for them to proceed with their IPO.
Correct. So the gates are now open, not just for new listings, but for companies to come back to market and raise additional equity as well. Because don't forget, you have companies like Posh, which maxed at 500 million, then the rights issue, because they couldn't pass that limit to maintain a tax break. So who knows? They might come up with more equity again to lower the debt burden.
Yeah. Learn, grow, invest is teasing me, saying get that
Okay.
750. And then, oh, your own IPO. Yes, LGI IPO loading. Okay, I see you. I see you.
Yeah.
Somebody, Lanesra wants to know what's going on at Tropical Battery. Another time for that, Lanesra. I've been hearing them in the news recently.
Yeah, the stock has been very volatile. So I think that's why that's it in focus. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to talk about them soon because they've been they're one to watch. Put it that way. But, all right. Well, thank you so much, David and Leo, for joining us this week and for your perspectives on one-on-one Knutsford, and then we ended up with a Brata talking about Dolphin Cove as well.
Glad to help, Camila.
Right.
Take it easy.
We'll take our final break and come back with your comments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Not long ago, I asked how many of you would be willing to pay to watch Taking Stock. And a lot of you responded that you would pay, but some of you begged me to keep it free. And I get it. Everyone goes through financial challenges, and I want as many people to access this information as possible. So I've decided to give you the option to make a donation and help to keep Taking Stock free. Support us at patreon.com/moneymediaja. Welcome back. Let's take your comments. Let's see what's going on over here in the chat. Learn, Grow, Invest, always active in the chat. Great to see you guys saying good to see volumes increasing for, what were we talking about? I think it was one-on-one we were talking about at the time. Shells said, so dividends in around 2 years for one-on-one. They're still making monkey money at this stage. Oh boy, well, why you have to call it that? Shells, monkey money? Give the people some encouragement. No, it's hard running a business in Jamaica. I see some complaints about getting TJH dividends, especially. Contact JMMB about that, guys, and see what is going on with that situation. What else do we have? Basil says Jamaica needs to fulfill the void that China used to fill in regards to America and invest into manufacturing. But the lesson that America is learning right now is that investment in manufacturing takes some time to reap benefits. You can't just slap the tariffs and say, we're going to do it. We're not going to buy from you anymore because we're going to have the factories. Factories take time to build and to open and to get operational and to get the staff and all of that. So in the interim, there are going to be significant and substantial effects. Basil again saying tourism alone can't bring a developing country to the next level. But I completely agree. We do need more investment in manufacturing. The cost of manufacturing needs to get cheaper, which means that the cost of electricity, which is a major part of the cost of manufacturing, needs to get less expensive, which means that our government needs to make a concerted effort to diversify our electricity sources and implement more renewables. They had laid out this ambitious plan that Jamaica would get to 50% renewables by 2030. We're in 2025. That's 5 years away, and we're nowhere near that target. So while I agree with you, there are things that we need to do in order to make that a reality. And I think that moving to renewables and getting more diversification in terms of our electricity supply is a major part of that. Secondly, we also need the expertise. We need the people. Our job market is already complaining that we don't have the skill set for the jobs that are available. We're seeing unemployment at record lows, but we're still seeing underemployment because a lot of our people don't have the skills for the jobs that are being created. So progress brings problems all the time. Let's see, what else do we have here? Sean, so Sean making the same point that I was just making. Jamaica's energy cost is too high and Jamaica's population is too small to support manufacturing. So the exact 2 points that I just brought in. LGI is saying volatility is your friend, wanting to know why did you have to mention that stock, Dolphin Cove. It's been in the news, you know, we talk about it. Sean says Dolphin Cove is a painful reality. Basil again, energy is definitely a problem Jamaica must fix. The overall cost of energy is in steady decline globally, but clothing and OEM manufacturing will do the island well. How did we go from Knutsford Express to Dolphin Cove? Tourism. They're both tourism related companies, tourism adjacent at the very least. Shell says Knutsford Express driving the tourists to Dolphin Cove. I was just at Dolphin Cove a few days ago. Last week, Friday, I took the family, took the kids there. They had a blast. It is still a great attraction, and it's the type of place that you could visit multiple times because the kids will want to do it again. We have pictures. I haven't posted them, but it's still a great attraction. It still has so much potential. I would like to see things become resolved with Dolphin Cove. Let's see what else we have. What other comments do we have here? No, I don't want to read that one. Taking stock late night edition. Thought we're going till 10. It is pretty late, 9:30. Wow. Yeah, it is pretty late. Shell says Tropical is waiting for the price to go back up. The current APO price is way above current price, so they are delaying. Talks about an APO for Tropical battery. Roswell says these companies coming in for IPO at $1 not working for us investors. Rotten apple. Okay. What else we have? Dr. Lithium says buy the dip. Shells wants to know when is the finance minister coming on? How come she agreed to come and then now not following up? She don't rate taking stock. Calling you out, Minister Williams. You're right, Shells. She did agree to come on and she has not so far. So we need to follow up on that. Let's call her again, make some calls, set it up. We do indeed need the finance minister on the show. She's been in the role now for a few months and has not made her taking stock debut just yet. So it is time. It is time. Calling you out, Minister Favour Williams. We would like, the people want to see you on taking stock sooner rather than later. Tag her on socials. Yes, that is true. Now, in the meantime, reminding you again, next week, Wednesday, is my first ever Money Talks at the AC Hotel. I would like to see Money Mission Talks. I would like to see you there. For those of you who are in Jamaica, register at moneymissiontalks.com. Let's fill the room. I have an awesome presentation for you guys. And at the end of the presentation, I'll be launching the brand new workbook. Go to moneymissiontalks.com to sign out and to sign up to register. Space is limited, so you will need to be on the guest list. And for those of you who are not in Jamaica, we will be streaming the event live. It's exciting. I don't do in-person events a whole lot, especially public in-person events, free in-person events. So this is going to be fun. It's a different format to delivering the information. So if you are ready to transform your finances, if you are ready to take control of your financial future, then this is an event that you need to be at. Go to moneymissiontalks.com. Or if you just want to link up with me, because we talk virtually every single week on the show, and you want to just meet me, I want to meet you, then link me up next week, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. at the AC Hotel. Go to moneymissiontalks.com. Who's coming? Comment in the chat if you're coming. Let me see who is coming. Who's coming? Shell said, when are you interviewing Elon Musk? Good question. I'm not on social. I would be banned immediately. TJH dividend, nice. Let me know in the comments, in the chat, if you're coming. Sunil says she's already registered. Great. Looking forward to seeing you, Sunil. I have a lot of work to do between now and next week, Wednesday. I suspect I will have some sleepless nights, some late nights up, making sure everything is done in time. But I'm really looking forward to it because a lot has gone into this. A whole heap has gone into this. So I will see you next week, Wednesday at Money Mission Talks. And then, of course, I'll see you again next week, Tuesday, here for Taking Stock. Until then, guys, thank you for joining us so much. Thanks to our hardworking production team. Thanks to all our guests today, Stephen Murad from Digicel, Leo from JMMB, David, our Taking Stock analyst, and to you for tuning in yet another week. Until then, let's get this money.